idiots. It is the Roman pigs. Go and tell Vercingetorix. They are making camp with their mercenaries.
Oh, well. Look who took a page out of my playbook and is putting some sick burns on that lead shot. Oh, no, I still think that's a really dumb idea, to be honest. What's wrong with your voice? My voice? What's wrong with your voice? Sick voice. Been sick, what's the problem? Is that how I'm talking? It's not important. So if you're not doing burns, what are you writing? But anyways, no, I still think your idea is kind of dumb. What I'm doing actually is I'm putting holes in this lead shot here, because what I'm thinking is if we get these things to whistle and make a real scary noise, it'll get everyone to drop down behind their shields, keeping them under cover. You know, that's not actually a bad idea. Especially since those simple-minded Gauls will probably think it's witchcraft or something. Hey, wait, what? You realize you guys stole like a ton of our technology for military history, right? Like, we are not barbarians. If you want to be remembered for something, maybe win some wars for once. Oh, right, okay, sure. Real mature. This freaking guy here. Give me that real quick. Sure, man, here you go. It's a witch. That'll do the trick. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerd and nerdette, and lords and ladies. You gonna step on my video now? No, I'm not crashing your video. I just figured since both whistling arrows and whistling lead shot were used historically, it'd be really cool to see how they work together and compare and kind of compete to see which one, you know, is better. Yeah, but whistling arrows weren't ever really used for psychological warfare, were they? Well, yeah, I mean that's true, but I'm sure mine are gonna sound cooler. Huh? Did I miss something? All right then, only one way to solve it. Let's build them both out. For this video, we are going to be making some whistling lead shot. So this is going to be a quick build. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here going over it, but basically what we have here, this fishing lead weight. These are 3 ounces, so right in line with heavier historical ones. They have a little hole in it, but I'm going to drill a bigger one in there. I'm going to do it in different sizes to see the different noises that they make when they're thrown, because that was something that was done psychologically to try to intimidate people. And I want to see, coming out of a sling moving fast, what that's actually going to be like. So I'm going to drill these out real quick, get a couple different sizes, a couple different ways to do it, and see what has the best effect. There's one right there, just like that. I'm going to try it again at varying sizes, some a little bit bigger, smaller. I'm going to smooth these out as well so they fly a little bit better. The larger insert there, I'm going to see if that makes a different noise. Now we're also going to do some lead with some shots that aren't all the way through, because it's noted that the ones that were found, they weren't drilled all through, so I want to check and see the difference in the sound between ones that have a partial hole and ones that go all the way through the actual lead shot. What I'm going to make is a whistling arrowhead. I'm going to see how that works in comparison to the lead shot as well. So there's one of the arrows here. I'm going to see how that whistle sounds in compared to the lead shot. So we have 2 whistling type arrows. I'm going to see how those go against about like quite a few of these here. So I'm going to see how the lead, different types, different holes, different dimensions, factors in. And then the whistling arrows, which were used historically for sending messages and things, we're going to see how that pans out also. Who the heck was that guy? I know, right? What a geek. That guy seemed like a nerd. Anyways, back to it. We are going to test the different types of lead with the different types of holes bored through them. And I'm going to see which one makes the most distinct sound, different varying distances, how that would feel having it come at you. So I got about 7 or 8 of these. I'm going to try them out with the sling, maybe some different sling types as well. And just kind of, I really want to capture that sound. So I'm going to set that up here and see how a whistling lead shot sounds and how much of a psychological impact that would play in just making you duck down for cover. And also hopefully prove it sounds a lot cooler than whistling arrows. Okay, so the way I'm going to set this up is I have this right here. This is the audio sensor, and I have one right here. I'm going to set this up down where the target range is and see how that picks up that audio from a shorter to a longer distance and kind of improve upon it and see if it's grabbing it in a good way. And then basically from there, try and expound out, learn. I'm gonna try to figure this out. I'm pretty excited to see how it sounds. I've never done this. I haven't thrown any of them yet, so I'm excited to see what that audio is actually gonna be. All right, so base test, we are going with rock. I have the audio sensor set up down there. I'm gonna see if I can pick that up and if it's picking up the sound as it travels by. Okay, so I can hear it in my ears, but not necessarily through the projectile. So I'm gonna try a different one here. This one's a partial one, so it's halfway through. And if it doesn't work, I'm gonna try and revise a different way to see if I can make that happen better. So let's see if that sounded better. So I can hear it in my ear when it's making the noise as it's coming off. It's making like this hissing, whistling sound, but it's not getting picked up by this. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take off the audio. I'm gonna set my camera up down here and then see if I can get it coming towards the camera to see if I can pick that sound up a little bit better. Okay, so I have the camera behind the shield here. I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna base test it with some rocks first, and then we're gonna go to the lead, see if I can pick up that audio sound any better. So this is an example of a fully bored out lead shot. So this is not as accurate historically. It was a partial, but I want to see how this goes with sound and then compare it to the one that's a partial, so like halfway through, as opposed to a full one. There's a crazy shot right here. Straight through. Obviously this isn't the most tough, particle board, but that was pretty clean right there. I'm gonna try it in slow motion now too, see if that picks up any sound distortion. I apologize, it's picking up wind, but I think that's doing much better than with the audio mic. This one here is partially bored out, so it's basically halfway through. The backside is not all the way, and when they found the records of them historically, it looked a little more like this. Similar weight and similar to construction, so we're gonna see if these have a different pitch as they kind of get released from the sling. In the video, I did mention a different sling type. This is a different one. It's a little more Middle Eastern in style. It's made out of wool. This one has a little bit of a snap on it, so when you do it right, you're gonna hear a really loud, pronounced snap. So there's a few different styles to this one. One of the common ones is you start behind, and then when you're ready, come up and over. So it's gonna pop way, way more. But the one I actually want to use is this one here. This was made for me from a friend. It's actually got a little witcher symbol on there. So I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna warm up with a few shots, and then I'm gonna take the lead with it, and I'm gonna see if I can get a different pitch with this different type of sling. Different type, I haven't practiced it as much as just the twine. It's a similar length. So let me get some rocks in here first just to get it going. All right, so I apologize. You're definitely getting some background wind noise because I have the mic off, and that seems to be the case where if there's a mic on, it's not working well. So I'm gonna do a lead shot from here and see if I can kind of audibly hear that hiss. So this is going to be partial. So unfortunately you couldn't really hear it coming from the back. I could definitely hear it when I was throwing it from back here, but this was just a cool shot. This is plywood, not particle board. And this thing punched in and basically all the way through it right there. I actually popped it out a little bit because I was having trouble with it, but that was just, that's pretty cool right there. Okay, so for the first one here, I'm gonna go a little bit to the left of the camera where I have it set up. I don't have the shield up because I think that's blocking some of the sound. And then based on how that goes and how I'm feeling, how confident I am, I'm gonna try to zip it over the camera with no shield and see how that picks it up, because I think that's gonna be the truest indicator of what that would sound like in history. But a little nervous. First shot, we'll see how I feel. And before I give it over to the Ranger, there was quite a few people on the previous video when I had the polycarbonate shield. They wanted to see how it did against lead shot. So I'm gonna bust that out real quick, see how I can do with lead against that, and then we're gonna jump over to the whistling arrow. So results were pretty similar to the rock. The first one was right here, and that was a solid hit. I mean, the impact sounds a little different, it's just a denser material. So it does great. I had a little more brace, so it didn't wiggle as much, so hopefully there wasn't as much dissipated energy. The second one was right here, so a good scuff definitely will startle you, but this thing's gonna keep you safe for sure. Again, 6mm polycarbonate, so it's doing its job. Okay, so I would say that's conclusive enough that there's a definitive noticeable audio difference when you're using that lead shot. The partial one seemed to work the best, and that kind of goes in line with what it was done historically. It wasn't all the way through, so that seems to create the most unique hiss sound. And I can definitely tell there's a lot of those in the air at one time, let's say hundreds of them, that it's gonna cause a real sense of dread, and you're gonna drop down behind that shield real fast. So it was cool to see, definitely. It was cool to see. I don't know if the whistling arrows are gonna be better, but I'm gonna leave that up to the Ranger. Well, thank you for that, Slinger Sam. Now, we are moving on to the cool stuff, the arrows. So I have 2 arrows here with the bodkin points that I drilled out. So what we're gonna do is test to see how the audio sounds with these coming across. These were used historically, mainly for sending messages, not necessarily for psychological warfare. Sometimes for communicating between troops. They were used by Mongols for duck hunts, and sometimes in Japanese culture in single combat or to initiate the start of warfare. These were used as well when the duels would happen. These were the first things fired, so you kind of hear them coming down and over. Now I'm gonna test and see how these stack up to the sounds that the Sling made. Now I learned a lot last test, and the big thing is, unfortunately, I'm not gonna use these. I'm gonna set the camera up down here. So you're still gonna get a little bit of wind noise. I'll try to block that out as best I can, but I just wanna try and get the best sound possible. So I'll kind of start closer, move these back as well, and see what the audio is. For the bows on this test that I'm going to be using, we have the 130-pound at 32-inch Warbow here. Additionally, I have the 121 at 30 Flatbow made by Joe Gibbs. This one fires the arrows significantly faster, closer to 200 feet per second, a little bit over. This one kind of caps at around 170 or so, around there. And so I want to see the different pitch as well between the 2 bows and those whistling arrows. Okay, so we are going to start with the 130 at 32 Warbow from about 25-ish yards, and kind of see how that picks up that sound. So the one thing that I can say is it definitely adds a more definitive hiss to the arrows. It's not like a true whistle, and that could be the way I built these out. But what I'm going to do now is try the 121 at 30, which looses arrows significantly faster at a higher velocity, and see if that changes the pitch at all. And then I may stretch it back a little bit further as well to see if the longer flight time adds anything to it also. So I'm not really sure what it is, but this black arrow here makes a much better whistle noise. It's built the same way. However, this one, the fletching fell off, so I think that it actually may spin or rotate more as it's loosed, so it causes a bit more of a whistle noise. This one here is a much newer, nicer arrow. I think maybe its flight path or trajectory is a little more in line, a little straighter, so it doesn't whistle as much. So I think the fletching probably has quite a bit to do with that whistle hissing noise. Not a big difference between the 130 and the 121, even though there's about a difference in 30, 40 feet per second there. Man, I think the Slinger's got me beat. That hissing noise from the lead shot, it sounds way more threatening than just like a whistle. I feel like it's terrifying. So, you know, I'm gonna say fully unbiased opinion here as I'm listening through. I think there's a couple factors in line that make the lead shot a little more frightening, is because really you can't see it near as well. With the arrows, a lot of times they're gonna arc over and you can see them coming through the air. Even if they whistled and hear them, you could see where it's coming from. With that lead shot, it was just a hail of lead. That 3 ounce to 1 ounce piece of lead is so small, you're really not gonna be able to track where it's coming from, and just hearing it is gonna be horribly frightening. So I think from a psychological or perspective warfare, it makes way more sense for sure why it was done historically with lead as opposed to arrows in mass to try to intimidate people. Because the arrows, you're really gonna see those coming down, but the lead shot, you can just hear it. It's just like a ghost, just a whisper and a hiss as it shoots into shield or right by you. That's it's a frightening thought. So I'm gonna graciously say, I think that the coolest sound, coupled with the psychological warfare aspect of it, with a whistling projectile, is definitely going to be the lead.